Based on the autobiography of the same name, written by Andre Karl van der Merwe, Moffie depicts the story of Nicholas van der Swart, a young South African white who, just like every boy over the age of 16, must enter himself into the South African Defense Force. Moffie released in 2019 and was directed by Oliver Hermanus. The film has received an incredible amount of praise, and it's easy to see why. The film is shot beautifully, acted brilliantly, and it explores how society's expectations of what a man is supposed to be affects male youth, and more specifically, queer male youth. Nick's story is set in 1981 apartheid South Africa. Obviously, attitudes commonly shared across South African whites were not exactly progressive. Normally, telling a story through the lens of a white man serving an apartheid regime would be questionable. However, in Nick's case, things are different because of his sexuality. Nick's sexuality is integral to the story and message of the film. As stated before, South African whites were not exactly progressive, and that certainly applied to homosexuality. Nick is not like most boys. He's quiet and unsuspecting. He minds his own and never does anything outwardly brash. These are traits that are seen as weak and not of a man. Men in South African society are supposed to be strong, tough, and above all else, not supposed to show emotion. These ideas are put onto every male youth in the film. Regardless of age, men are supposed to act and be one way. Every boy in this film, by the end, becomes a changed man. They're not men who are strong and mature, but men who are broken and hollow. Firstly, I want to talk about the world around Nick before serving the SADF. Nick doesn't exactly have the best father figure. His father, to me, seems to want to protect his son, but goes about things in all the wrong ways. Possibly because he's really just trying to protect himself. We are shown a flashback when a younger Nick watches another male shower at a pool. He is caught and reprimanded by another adult man, not for being creepy, but for looking at a man. The issue at hand becomes an entire scene for everyone at the pool to watch, and Nick's father's response is to hurry him to the car and hide him away. Nothing is confronted. The incorrect behavior, Nick's possible attraction to men, nothing. Nick's father would rather shield himself from reality and continue on like nothing is wrong. This fact is further compounded at the beginning of the film when his dad gives him a porn magazine just before he leaves for the army. This moment highlights the idea that Nick's father just wants to be ignorant to Nick's sexuality. I don't even think he believes Nick likes women, but confronting that reality is just too hard for him, so he just pretends that Nick is heterosexual. Nick has been verbally attacked by strangers and ignored by those who love him because of who he is. For his entire life, Nick has had no real support from anyone, and for a boy growing into a man, that can have some damning repercussions. A majority of this film is centered on Nick's time in the military, obviously. This is where the real exploration of hyper-masculine themes happens. From when they get off the train, it is immediately clear the situation the boys are in. They are loaded into trucks, they are called some of the most derogatory words that can be thought of. They are hazed, they are beaten, they are abused. At the very beginning, their sergeant tells them they are no longer people. They are useless scads who are to be turned into men. Those who do not comply will be dealt with accordingly.
Vergeet van alles wat jy dink jy weet. Jy is nie meer iemand nie. Julle is rowe. Bloederige, etterige, nuttelose rowe. En is ons werk om julle rowemans te probeer maak. Verstaan julle? Ja, luitenant. Ek kan nie hoor nie. Ja, luitenant. Kommunisme, luigatgeit, mofgatgeit, kaffersimpatie en enige vorm van ondermyning sal nie geduld word nie. As jy jou gaan gedra soos die vyand, dan gaan ek jou behandel soos die vyand.
No one will display sympathies to communism. No one will be lazy. No one will sympathize with blacks. No one will be a Moffie.
The title of the film is the title of the book, and for the author of the book, it is a provocation about the word that was used to shame him and to shame many other men. And the title of the film for us is an expansion of that. It is about the fact that the film's interest is the weaponizing of this word to diminish and to dehumanize and to demoralize and to demasculinize men. And so our approach to the word in the film is to try and reappropriate its power and to denuclearize it. We agreed that there was something in the book that we wanted to explore. For me personally, it was an examination of shame amongst a generation of men who were being militarized.
For 1981 apartheid South Africa, and for so many around the world today, being a man is about making yourself feel strong by making others feel weak. It's about placing shame onto those who are different. Nick's journey to becoming a man concludes at the end of the film in the shootout. In trying to save one of his own, Nick shoots and kills one of the enemies, a black boy. In the closed captions on YouTube after Nick shoots, it is specifically stated that the person who was shot is a boy. This is someone just like Nick. Throughout the duration of Moffie, Nick has watched black people be degraded and abused just as he has watched the same thing happen to the boys who were caught. One is driven to killing himself. The other is left dejected in a husk of who he once was. No hope for the future.
Do whatever you can to stay invisible.
I'm not like you.
And Dylan Stassen, Nick's love interest, a man who was broken in Ward 22, a place where psychopaths and drug addicts are sent. After Nick has subjected someone of inferior status to that kind of cruelty, he is finally deemed a man. Nick was changed, absolutely, just as every boy who walked beside him was. They became men who've lived through, seen, and have done some of the worst things imaginable. However, they are not strong and brave. They are broken and lost. Nowhere to go. They are put through trauma and told to deal with it, to ignore it because it's seen as a weakness if acknowledged. Pushed to the brink with nowhere to go, many of these boys grew up to keep the cycle going. This movie is not just a snapshot of the awful apartheid regime of South Africa, it is also a look at what perceived masculinity can do to male youth, correcting incorrect behavior for the incorrect reasons, propagating demeaning messages, putting those down because they're different. These are behaviors seen time and time again in Moffie. Despite the time period the film takes place, its themes and ideas are still relevant today as the discussion of what a real man is continues. For queer youth, and specifically male queer youth, Moffie shows that this experience is not unique and does not need to be experienced alone.